It's like this. It's like this. It's like this. It's like
Hi everybody, it is Friday, October 2nd, 2015. This is Radio Tokyo. I am of course Jonathan, and with me again, as always, because he never seems to go away, is Nick. Nick, how are you doing today?
I'm fine. I'm just here hanging out, like water on Mars, 'cause that's cool.
You know that we discussed water on Mars on Monday, Nick, right?
I don't care. There is water on Mars.
Well, it's
That's
not.
awesome.
It's not there all the time. It's only there certain times. And if you would actually have listened to the show on Monday when I discussed this, you would know that. But I guess you didn't listen to the show on Monday. Did you not listen to it, Nick? What the hell?
I'm just saying there is water on Mars. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Anyways,
What's your point?
anyways, that there's water on Mars. Anyways, so what's up?
I'm still wanting to know why it is you're concerned about the water on Mars. I mean, it's not like it has any relevance to what we were going to talk about today at all.
Because it supports my plan of becoming a Martian.
Well, all you have to do to be a Martian is already claim it there. So, come on, Matt Damon, get with the program here, buddy.
I'm just saying, I would like to become a Martian and fly to Mars and live there, because it would be cool.
So you mean you want to go to a planet where you don't have a breathable atmosphere and you'll be destroyed by UV radiation in less than an hour?
Is it really worse than being here?
Well, I don't know. I mean, well, okay. After yesterday, it might be better. Because honestly, dude, honestly, okay, look, I know you and I discussed before we started you didn't really want to get into this early on, but now that it's been brought up,
Well,
honestly I'm tired of the mass shootings. There's been 127, I think, since the shooting at Sandy Hook, which was 3 years ago. And like I bitched about it on Facebook earlier. I've had several questions about it. I'm just tired. I'm tired of it being a news headline. I really genuinely am.
yeah, it's pretty just, it's sad. It's just, I don't want to wake up or casually hear, oh, there's been another mass shooting. Just, every few weeks or every week or however long it is now. It 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 should not be happening like that.
Now see, here's the thing. Like, I realize guns are not the actual problem because it's not the gun that's doing it, really. Now I understand the history of guns. Like I said, 47,000 times on the show, I'm a gun owner. Okay, I've shot guns, I've held guns, I've looked at guns. Whatever. The gun is not the actual problem because the gun requires someone to pull the trigger. So whenever someone says guns don't kill people, yes, they do, but you have to have the person actually pulling the trigger. Okay? So just go ahead and get that out there. I'm not a dumbass. Uh, I'm like I said, I I'm like Obama. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. Yesterday was the 15th speech he's had to give about gun violence. I'm tired of seeing news stories about cops being shot by cops shooting citizens. I'm tired of hearing stories about churches that have been shot up. I'm tired of hearing stories about schools. I'm fucking tired of it. Like, I mean, it's to the point that I'm really like I spent a good portion of the day just crying thinking about this shit because it's sad and it's depressing. And for someone like me who already deals with depression and anxiety, I really don't need more shit added to it. Now, but before we go any further, I want to dispel a couple of rumors I've seen because it's been all over Facebook for some reason and Twitter and Instagram, whatever. Uh, The shooter was not a Muslim. He was a white kid. He was not religious, but he was spiritual, and he had close ties to the Catholic Church. He was rejected from the army for health concerns. He suffered from depression. He suffered from anxiety. He reached out to get help and didn't get it. That fits the profile of every shooter in history that has been since fucking Columbine. You know, someone who had problems, someone who didn't get the help they needed, and they were on average 25 or about 25 years old, and they were white. And Christian, or from a Christian background. Can we please just, goddamn, can we please just stop saying that he was a Muslim and that all the other stupid bullshit, all the dumbass talking points? Because I'm sorry here, again, facts actually matter because we're talking about people's lives. There's something like 188 people or something like that a day get shot in the United States. A day. A day. And it's aggravating as fuck to me to hear all these stories. In Shreveport, Louisiana, there was a police officer who was shot, and they have not failed to bring up his name at least once a day since he was killed in August, and I'm like beginning of August, and it's October 2nd. They've been mentioning him for 2 weeks, 2 months now. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of it. I'm like the president. I'm tired of it. It makes me angry, and it makes me uncomfortable that we seem to live in a world where kids can't wake up and go to school, where people can't go to church, people can't walk down the street without having to be afraid that some asshole who is angry or somebody who is having problems coping with society or whatever cannot get the help or it's going to shoot them, because they don't seem to be getting the help that they need. Now, just to make it clear, I'm not saying we need to get rid of all guns. No, getting rid of the guns not going to solve everything. Okay, common fucking sense here needs to be applied. Now, whether that's you know what they do in Germany or Great Britain or Australia or Canada or France or anywhere else, I don't know. But there does need to be something done about it, and I would like to see people come together and acknowledge, hey, there is a problem and it does need to be discussed. No matter what solution they come up with, I would like to see that done. I don't think that's too much to ask.
Yeah, I mean, it's like getting rid of guns doesn't get rid of murder or things like that, but obviously we have a lot of mass shootings going on. It, it it's it's a problem.
We average about 100,000 people getting or being involved in gun violence in the United States a year. 100,000 people. That's
Yeah.
insane. That's insane. And what bothers me is that homicide is actually the 16th ranked cause of death in the country. Do you know what ranks above that?
What?
Suicide. Suicide is ranked 10th. Suicide is ranked fucking 10th, but yet we have more people who get shot and die of gun violence in the country. I don't understand how that works, and it bothers me. But yes, there is a problem, and I really don't fucking know what it is, but I do think it's well past time that we actually drop the politicized bullshit about this and we discuss it like rational adults. Now, again, I'm not saying get rid of the Second Amendment. I'm not saying ban all the guns. I'm saying we need to have a goddamn conversation about this because at some point in time it needs to stop being politicized. People need to stop using it for attacks on the president, using it attacks on Democrats or Republicans or liberals, conservatives, atheists, Catholics. I don't give a good goddamn who and what anyone is. It's time we actually discuss something like human beings. Just have a little bit of compassion. Because I'm sorry, uh, you're right. Getting rid of the guns is not going to solve everything. Look at Great Britain. They have about 100 people in Great Britain who get shot every year, but most of those are accidents. Now, if Britain can do that,
Yeah.
why can't we? If
Well,
Canada can do it, why can't we? If Germany, France, and Australia, and Austria, China, Russia
I mean,
can do it, why
well,
can't we?
one of the curious things, when you talk about Um, I'm echoing on your end. There we go. But one of the curious things that is when you talk about gun violence, well, okay, then you have to ask, well, if the gun isn't there in the first place, would they just use another tool to be violent with? And I can't remember if this is accurate or not. I think Britain actually has more violent crimes than the U.S., even though they have far less gun crimes.
They do. They actually do. Now,
Obviously,
now, see, here's the thing. The day of the shooting at Sandy Hook, the exact day, that same morning, while the asshole, I'm not even going to dignify him because, now, see, I probably shouldn't call him an asshole, but I'm going to anyway because I can. Um, the same day that he was shooting people at little kids, little children at Sandy Hook, there was a man who walked into a Chinese classroom, or a couple classrooms, and killed 100 kids with a knife. There is always going to be evil there. People are always going to do bad things, whether it's to get attention, to make a statement. Just like Jeb Bush said earlier today, things happen. Now, yes, things happen, but there has to be some logical way that we can address the topic and just realize we have a violent society. Now, whether that means
yeah.
we have to advance ourselves to what Gene Roddenberry discussed in Star Trek, I don't know. I really don't know, but I think it's time to quit playing cowboys and Indians about this and talk about it. And
Well, I mean, I think probably the most distinct part about gun violence is the capability for mass violence. And I remember the Chinese knife incident, but I don't think he actually was able to kill anyone. I remember he injured like 30 people or so.
he killed 100
Um,
kids.
I don't think that's. I'm gonna double check on that. But anyways, um, it's far easier to kill lots of people with a gun than it is with a knife or sword or whatever other weapon you want to choose. Um, so in that and especially with the guns of today, when we compare those to the guns in the 1700s, the 1800s, those weren't automatic weapons. You had to load, reload. It took a while. So I mean, it's a different dynamic. It's an interesting dynamic. But there's gotta be something done. There's just too many mass murders. It's a serious problem.
It is. It really is a serious. And now, again, when you and I spoke yesterday, we honestly, everyone, Nick and I did not even want to mention this. We're like, we didn't even want to fucking bring this up because it's it's a political thing, and we didn't want to bring it up. But in the most fucked up way possible, it actually does tie into what we were going to talk about today.
It does not. It
Yeah,
does
oh
not
no,
tie
no.
into.
Well, see, no, see, like it actually breaks my heart that I even can say that statement, and there's some semblance of truth to it.
Eh,
Now, okay, what we're going to talk about is more shit with the Marvel Cinematic Universe because, as all of you know, from my rants about Spider-Man and everything else, I have problems with the MCU, but we've never really actually gotten into that. So I kind of want to stop talking about reality for a second and talk about the the messed up situation of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And this is including TV shows like Daredevil, which by the way, thanks to Netflix, I got to watch it all. I watched all of Daredevil. I love it. It's amazing. If you haven't seen it, god damn, go watch it. It's good.
I really don't understand how you did not see that until just recently.
Because I didn't have Netflix and it was only on Netflix. So,
You are a crazy, crazy person.
well, see, I was actually borrowing it from someone. Like, I had a Netflix account, but I stopped using it and stopped paying for it, and I was borrowing on a friend's, and she stopped using hers. So I haven't had Netflix for 3 or 4 months now. But my sister does not use hers, at least not right now, and she keeps it active. So she was like, "Here, just watch whatever the hell you want to." I'm like, "Fine, okay." So I've been watching it, and yesterday, well, actually last night, I decided I was trying to figure out what I wanted to watch next after I finished that, and God help me, but I started watching Power Rangers. I'm about 10 episodes into it, and I oh, I don't know what the hell was wrong with me as a kid. What did I ever see in that show?
Greatness. That's what you saw in that show. Just pure, pure greatness.
No, see, here's the thing. Here's the thing. As an adult, I can now watch it and see. Okay, the problem is I understand that it's based off of the Zyu Ranger, whatever the hell it's called in Japan. Okay, I get that. And I knew when I was younger that a lot it will like around high school age is when I found this out. But a lot of it was actually just reprocessed scenes from episodes of the original Japanese show, and going back and
Mm-hmm.
look and watching it and realizing that it's like that's about 90% of the damn show is all reprocessed footage, all of it, all of it. There are actually putty patrollers that show up in Power Rangers that were mentioned in, well, the original ones were called golems, okay, and they're mentioned in there, but when you look at them in Power Rangers, that they don't even acknowledge them. And you have the standard Putty Patroller, but you have some that have got like big rocky hands, and then you have some that have the discolored faces, and then some that have like giant rock balls on their hands, and then some that have swords. But in a couple scenes when they're fighting, you see one that's like black stone. Never discussed, never mentioned in the show. They don't even acknowledge that particular the particular monster is there. But what it is in the original series, that was actually the leader, and every patrol attack that came down would actually have a leader for it, and that was it. But it's not acknowledging this, and I've noticed several times, for some reason the Pink Ranger seems to be this lime green color in a lot of the scenes. Like typically whenever they're doing the weapons attack, when they're combining their weapons and everything, it's like this
Mm.
ugly ass lime green Ranger, and then there are a couple times in the Megazord, or it's this ugly ass lime green Ranger, and it's weird to look at this and realize that's what's going on. And another thing that bothers me is the Pink Ranger has always been a girl. Okay, so the stunt person, whoever is in the costume in the Japanese show, was actually a woman, and you can tell that because like there's breasts there, so like there's like that there's that one indication. Now that could just be padding. I don't know. I'm not saying the actor always has been, but the character is always shown as being female. The Yellow Ranger was always a man.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, and it's kind
Really
of
remember
fucked
that.
up. Now, Fai Trang, the American actor who played Trini in the original season, the first episodes and whatever, uh, she had a very slender frame, but it was not slender enough to be exactly like the Red Ranger, the Blue Ranger, and the Black Ranger. She should not look exactly like them in in her costume, but yet she does in the
Every
reprocessed footage. So all these years growing up, watching Power Rangers, I was like, yeah, that girl's kicking ass. And it turns out it was a man. It was a man the whole time. The man. What the fuck, Japan? Why do you do that to me?
it wasn't Japan that did that to you. It was America.
No, no. Well, see, here's the thing. America fucked
No,
it up even more.
America reused the footage. They're the ones that made her into, or the Yellow Ranger into a girl. So that was all
Well,
America's
well,
doing.
no, well, no, well, no. See, here's the thing. Once it got to America, it became even more fucked up because holy shit, so much racism. The Red Ranger. Okay. Oh my God. Okay. There's
Yellow
so
Ranger
many
was
things wrong with this as an adult.
the
Okay.
Black Ranger was black.
Okay. Here's the thing. Uh, there's actually supposed to be an ethnicity to every ranger. Like they're supposed to represent uh different aspects of society. The Red Ranger, uh, it tried to be redone that he's Puerto Rican or some. I don't know. He's supposed to be Hispanic,
I think the
and
second time they, no, the second Red Ranger was actually Hispanic, wasn't he?
I'm not that far in, so I don't remember.
They, they,
But
they implied the first Ranger was supposed to be Hispanic or something.
okay, well, see, he's supposed to be Hispanic, so okay, that's whatever. You would never know by looking at him, but who gives a shit? Okay, the Pink Ranger is, of course, super girly, like oh my god, little valley girl. The Yellow Ranger is Asian. The Black Ranger is African American. And also, going back and looking at this, his costume on the show, nearly every time, it was like, Kwanzaa is walking around. I'm serious. He had like one of those back to Africa medallions he always wore. He always wore red, black, and green outfits, and it was not his goddamn decision to dress that way. It was the show. It was like he's African American. He's the only black guy on the show. We're gonna make sure you know he's black, and they dressed him that way. And Trini, is always in the World Cultural Food Fest thingy. Guess just take a wild guess what Trini was serving.
Wontons, spring rolls.
She was serving all the Asian food. It's insane. And see, what I haven't actually figured out is if they're all supposed to represent cultural different aspects of society. What does Billy represent?
Nerdiness.
Well,
Being a
see,
nerd.
knowing what I know about David Yost in reality,
Well,
meaning that he's gay, maybe
yeah.
possibly the reason Billy is such a fucking dork, and he is. I'm sorry, he is. I didn't want to acknowledge this when I was younger. I was like, Billy's kind of cool. He's the smart kid, whatever. No, he's a fucking dork. He really was. Go back and watch this shit, and you'll understand. You'll see how much of a little dumbass they had him be. I mean, he's like always talking in this high pitched nerdy voice, and he doesn't even use phrases that people would like. His way of saying I can't dance is that the voluntary spasms of my body don't jive with like the beat of the tempo of the music. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Just say I can't dance. Just say I can't dance. But yet 3 seconds later he break dances. And then there's the episode with uh the monster that plays an accordion that lures all the kids away from the Jim and Juice bar. Jim and Juice in California. Jim and Juice, really? Jesus. But yeah, he lures all the kids away, and of course, the one kid who follows him and doesn't know what's going on just so happens to be deaf, and it happens that every one of the Power Rangers can sign magically. They all know sign language for the one deaf kid.
Well, see, to me, this is representative of the beautiful area or era of the early '90s. So much echoing. Area. Anyway, the beautiful era of the early '90s where no one gave a crap about stereotypes. They just literally did it. No one cared. No one noticed. And if people did notice, no one cared that they noticed. And I know. I mean, now obviously, yeah, you can't do that, but it's just hilarious to look back on it. And I just have to laugh. That's all I can do is just laugh really, really hard.
I'll just go ahead and quote the wrestler here. The '90s fucking suck.
No, the '90s were awesome. The '90s rocked.
No,
Why?
the
Because
'90s
no
suck.
one. No. The '90s rocked because no one gave a fuck. They just literally didn't. No one cared if they were offended. No one cared about anything. It was just this nice, peaceful kind of lull before all the weird stuff started happening.
Actually, I think all the weird stuff started happening in the '90s. SpongeBob, if you recall, came out in the '90s, so there is that. But yeah.
I meant
Oh
real
yes.
world. I meant
Speaking
real world, real weird stuff.
speaking of Nickelodeon, their new it's not really a network. Well, it is, but it's going to be like Adult Swim as Cartoon Network. It's going to take over a programming block. Coming out at some point in time this month is the Splat. I think is what it's called. They're going to show shows from the '90s. So like Clarissa Explains It All Real Monsters, and
That's
all
not
that
really
fun,
Adult
amazing shit.
Swim. That's more like a boomerang.
No, no, I said it's gonna be like Adult Swim is to Cartoon Network. There's a certain point
No,
in
no.
time where it switches over to that, and it's considered a different network.
I guess. But it's
It's
more
weird,
like boomerang than Adult Swim.
I guess. Well, but anyway,
I would
before
I'm actually excited about that. I kind of want to watch that.
I am excited. I intend to watch it. But yeah, before we get way the hell too far off track here, yes, we're talking about the problems in the Marvel Cinematic Universe because I have a lot of problems. I have so very many problems with the MCU. But before we do that, I want to drop a couple bombs here, explosive bombs here. Um, there is discussion of The Watchmen getting to be a TV show on Netflix or HBO, probably
That
HBO, and that excites me. Like that makes um my fun parts tingle. I'm excited for that.
i- if they can do it like they did Daredevil, I'm really excited because I still don't think the Watchmen movie was that great.
I do. I liked it.
I I think the Watchmen movie had problems, like storytelling problems, just movie problems in general.
I'm not, okay. Okay. I'm not saying it didn't have problems, but I am saying that I think for trying to adapt the source material and be as accurate as possible, I really think that Watchmen was spot on with doing that. I really think that it's probably the best comic adaptation we've seen yet. Probably. And that's excluding Daredevil because I'm talking about movies.
Mm, see, I'm not sure. Well, okay. Here's my issue. I'm not sure that a pure comic adaptation is a good thing when you're making a movie. Um, when you try to purely convert something over, it rarely turns out very well. And my primary example for this would be Lord of the Rings. Anyone who's read the books knows there are parts that are very different from the movie, as you know, right?
Yeah.
It is not a faithful retelling. The ending is different. I mean, there's a lot of parts that are different. Um, but I think it's a better movie because it's a movie. It's a Lord of the Rings movie. It's not a Lord of the Rings adaptation. And I think a lot of the problems that comics, TV shows, things like that have problems with when they try to make a movie out of them is they try to do a pure adaptation. And I think you run into serious problems when you do that, especially from a novel or a series like comics into a movie. You might be able to do a much better job with that with a TV show, like Daredevil. Um, and we see that a lot with manga that's turned into anime, even though those are visual novels. But we see anime be much more successful as series um, from their manga adaptations than we see movies with usually. So I get that Watchmen was a faithful adaptation of the comics. I'm not sure that was a good thing though.
I think it actually is a good thing, because really, like I said, if if okay, if you want to make a movie out of a comic book or whatever, you're going to have to appease as many people as possible. Now, of course, Watchmen has got critics to it, because Alan Moore had a certain story in there, and that was what was intended. And when you look at it, you don't really get that actual ending, like the idea of a giant space monster coming and killing everybody. That's not in there. But what they did was they made the space monster into the threat of a nuclear war that would have killed everybody on the planet, which is a real world thing from that era, and it works. It works for me. But everything else, with a few exceptions, it's in there. Now the exceptions are the extended backstories about all the characters that you don't necessarily need. But it works. It's a very faithful adaptation with a few alterations to the story. Now, Lord of the Rings was good at that. Now, if you want to talk about something that actually fucked up its source material, that would be The Hobbit. The Hobbit looked at that and said, "There's not enough story there. We're gonna make shit up," and they made so much shit up that they have 6 hours of movies.
Oh yeah, the Hobbit is a terrible adaptation. It's not the worst movie ever. It's something I can still kind of watch and enjoy. But as an adaptation and to for my expectations, it was a horrible disappointment. It was just incredibly disappointing.
The first movie is perfectly fine. I mean, really, it's once you get to the second and third one that the problems just go downhill like snowball. But but everything that was presented in the first one, the initial movie, I'm okay with it. I really am, because if you okay,
It
if
would
you
have
read
been
it,
much better as just two movies, or even just one movie.
if you read it, like, okay, if you read the story and then you look at the movie, just the first movie here, the first movie, it's actually pretty close to the damn book. I mean, everything seems to happen at roughly the same time. But what they did to make movie number two and number three is take about the latter half of the book and just stretched it and stretched it and stretched it and stretched it and stretched it, and then
Well,
tried to add shit in there, and it doesn't work.
then they added things that were in like the notes and things that he Tolkien said happened somehow, and he tried to imagine what those would be, and it it was not a good decision. It just wasn't. I'm not sure if the studios were trying to push that or it was what's his name? Um 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 crap. What was his name?
It was not Peter Jackson. That's who you're thinking of. It was absolutely
Yeah,
not
yeah,
Peter Jackson. Peter Jackson did not even want to do the movie. Did
yeah.
not
Cause
want to do it at all. And when they got into doing it, he hated it. Like
yeah,
it was the least entertaining thing to him. And I understand why. Like I said, the first movie, if they had been able to condense that into to one movie, or hell, even extended it to 3 hours long, they could have gotten the whole book in one movie. They could have done the whole damn
right.
thing in
It
one movie.
it would have been great. I would have loved it. It would have worked perfectly. It would have tied into Lord of the Rings. I mean, it was just a mess of a movie or
It
a
it,
mess of
it,
a
it,
movie
it actually
series.
is. Now, honestly, uh, the third one, I really can't stand. Billy Connolly's performance in there is about the only thing that I like. It really is. Uh, his arrival as Dane Ironfoot, and then the initial engagement, when Azog, who is not even mentioned in the book, comes into play, starts moving his army in, and is like, sons of Durin advance, and they all run around the hills and everything, and just the initial fight, I loved it. I can watch that over and over again. But when you start talking about, what Thorin and the other asshole dwarves are doing, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit at all. And I really don't like the final battle between Thorin and Azog at all. I can't stand to watch it. It's kind of disgusting to me to watch it because it's, oh my god, they both die like little bitches. And I know, a lot of people don't like hearing that phrase because I don't know, whatever. But they do. Like, it's such predictable nonsense when they die. Oh, look, he knocked Azog into the water. I bet you he's still alive. Oh, look, Azog's still alive, and he's gonna pounce on him. And I bet you, Thorin's gonna do like, here, fucking stab me. I'm gonna stab. Oh, and that's what they both did. It's predictable. It's stupid and pointless, and I hate it.
Yeah.
But, but we are still not getting to the problems with the MCU. So to get back on track here, uh, this past week there were some announcements from Marvel, from Kevin Feige and Jeremy Latcham, talking about it. First off, I want to get into what Kevin Feige had to say, and that is that the next Captain America movie is the last one. There is not going to be another one, probably. And what he said was, it's very much, in a certain way, the completion of a Captain America trilogy. I think one day you'll look back and watch Captain America First Avenger, then Winter Soldier, and then Civil War, and it'll be one of the most unique and different trilogies ever around a single character. I think that's inevitable at some point as we're plotting the movies going forward and they're doing the shows. Now, what he's talking about is the TV shows. Okay, the schedules don't always quite match up to make that possible. It's easier for them. They're more nimble and faster and produce things quicker than we do, which is one of the main reasons you'll see the repercussions of Winter Soldier or Age of Ultron in the show. But going forward, and certainly as they do more shows and cast them with such great actors as they have, particularly in Daredevil, that may occur. But the reality of it, by the time we start doing a movie, they'd be midway through a season then. By the time the movie comes out, they'd be done with the second and starting the third season. So finding timing on that is not always easy. Now, again, what he's talking about is possibly tying in the TV shows to the actual movies. And sure, you could do that. Like we could possibly have Daredevil. Charlie Cox could be on, in a movie, but the likelihood of that is probably not going to happen. So that means you're probably going to see Daredevil staying as a TV show, and that's actually kind of sad. So,
Actually,
Wilson Fisk, Daredevil, Punisher, Elektra, and everyone else is probably just going to stay as TV.
one of the most interesting things that I heard was, although they said they're probably not going to do this, but one of the when we are talking about Civil War, one of the things that they were saying they might possibly do is to have the incident that's going to cause the Civil War actually occur in the second season of Daredevil. Um, which I think would be a really, really interesting idea because it kind of fits. Daredevil, Punisher, and then, they're more considered vigilantes. They don't exactly have the sympathy of most people. Um, they're heavily outlaws. Um, so that could be something that would be really interesting. If they were to try to tie the TV shows and the movies together like that. Um, Probably the one that they're doing the most right now is Agents of Shield, which I don't really watch that much because the main character annoys me. But um, we were talking about this earlier. There's just that bugs me. But it's really interesting because the right now, even though they're all part of the MCU and they make very vague, kind of slight references to each other, most of the shows are and the movies are pretty separate from each other right now. Outside of the Avengers, the main Avengers, and they're all pretty separate right now. They're not really that closely linked.
See, what really bothers me here, and this is one of my major issues with the MCU, is that the movies don't make any damn sense. If you look at Marvel's timeline, like their actual setup timeline for all this and all that shit, what you see is okay. The first Iron Man movie, Thor, and the Hulk movie all take place in about a week's time. Okay, by the time you get to Iron Man 2, you have Tony Stark going to court, and then when he invents, that new uh, element or whatever it is, that's the same goddamn day. That's the same day. Tony Stark invented a new element the same day. Okay. Now, were the most recent Spider-Man movies to have been included in the MCU, because we all know they're not. Um, if they were included, all of that shit would have been happening at the same time. Okay. I mean, we're talking about within less than a week of the attack
But
on New York by the Chitauri, that would have coincided with everything Peter Parker was going through at the
but
same time.
clearly that's not happening.
And see, if you look at Daredevil, this is it's. I believe it was said to be about a month after the Chitauri attack, whenever the events of Daredevil take place. So you're in a
I
relatively
think it was like a year after, if I remember right.
something like that. But it's a really short time frame there. Okay, and
Yeah, the MCU is moving at a fairly fast rate, timeline wise. It's definitely very, very fast, very rapid.
but see, here's what bothers me. Now, okay, just for clarification purposes, Daredevil does not involve all of New York City. Daredevil takes place in Hell's Kitchen, which is like a 5 or 10 block
Suburb.
area.
Yeah,
It's like a big ass square, basically. Okay,
yeah.
and and he's all in that one little area. Okay,
Like Gotham's supposed to be a part of New York
yeah.
as well.
Gotham is essentially the lower third of Manhattan. Okay, but uh, Daredevil is just in Hell's Kitchen. Okay, he doesn't really go anywhere else in New York. So it's not likely that you'll see uh the destroyed buildings and whatnot. But yet, if you look when they show the skyline, particularly when they're at the docks, the wharf, whatever you want to call it, they're looking at the skyline, and you can see Stark Tower. You see Stark Tower, okay? You see a couple of the other buildings that were blown the fuck up. So they're within eyeshot of these other buildings and the other part of New York that was actually destroyed. But yet everything there is perfectly fine. there's nothing wrong and it's okay. I don't get that. Now they could have now the reason I don't get it is because it took what like a year and a half or whatever to clean up all the mess when the trade towers were destroyed, right?
Yeah.
So why does New York look very clean upwards of a year after something like $12 billion in damage was done to the city?
Didn't they say that Tony actually paid for the cleanup, if I remember right?
I do know that he helped pay for it, but again, we're talking about a massive amount of money and a massive cleanup. Huge cleanup here. I mean, the whale things, whatever they were, the big flying space whale things, whatever they were that the Chitauri were using. You're talking 5, 6 city blocks long, and they're probably 30 feet tall, maybe. Those damn things are huge, and there was like 3 or 4 of them. Okay, the little ships are there. All the individual Chitauri are there. I mean, there was a lot of damn damage done to New York. Like I said, it's something like $12 billion worth of damage. That's unreal, and the fact that it's just shown as being all hunky dory within a year, there's something wrong there.
Actually, I'm not sure that any of the buildings collapsed in that fight. I'm going back to. I'm just kind of skimming through the footage of the fight scene right now. Actually, I don't think they actually destroyed any of the buildings. Unlike in Man of Steel, where you actually saw the buildings collapsing and falling down and things like that. I don't see any of the buildings actually being destroyed. Certainly, there was a lot of damage. I can certainly tell you that. But just skimming through the footage of the first Avengers movie, I don't see any of the buildings collapsing.
But see, that's part of what bothers me because if you remember, there was only 2 buildings, well, technically 3 or whatever, depending on which conspiracy theory you want to listen to, that collapsed on 9/11. Okay, 2 buildings were able to put up a cloud that stayed over New York for at least a week and took a year and a half to clean up the mess from those 2 buildings alone. Okay, but yet all of this shit is cleaned up and there seems to be no now. Granted, had the
And
buildings fallen down, what
yeah,
which I really don't remember them being destroyed and falling down or whatever. I have to go back and watch it. But there was massive destruction. Like I said, something like $12 billion. Whatever the hell it was, it's more money.
I'm watching right now. Uh, Most of the damage is honestly on the street level, which is weird. That this may not be a very realistic fight. I guess possibly you could say that.
Nick,
But
they had giant space whales that launched fighter craft out of their stomachs. I think
I
realism has long since gone
I
out the
mean,
window.
realistic damage wise. I'm saying damage wise. Um, Basically, the most damage that the whales do is they swipe like 2 buildings. That's about it. That's literally all the damage they do.
But at the same time, they managed to take out a couple. But any anyway. Okay. My other problem is at the end of the movie. The end of the movie. Okay. They show the Avengers. Now of course Hulk has long since calmed down. Tony Stark there, who is probably the most famous person on the planet for being a weapons designer, is everyone's personal hero. Everybody, come on now, think about that for a second. Think about what kind of message that sends about the people that live in the Marvel universe. He's there. Thor is there. Thor and Loki are there, and oh, that's what blows my mind the most. Two living, breathing individuals that confirm that Norse mythology is actually reality. And of course,
I I am really confused about why in the Marvel universe more people are not following Norse mythology.
see, okay, here's the thing. I actually
That's
thought
something that honestly confuses me.
I actually thought the way that it was addressed, having Captain America say, "There's only one God." I like that. That was a cute line. I really enjoyed that.
No, 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 no.
But yet he's standing there. He's standing there next to somebody who is a god. Well, he's not really a god, but he was worshipped as a god by
Yeah,
human beings, and he's clearly real. Okay, he's
yeah.
real, and I don't get that. Like, how, and see, it bothers me. How was there not how was there not some religious war that started because of this? Really, think about that. How did the Archdiocese of New York, say to every Catholic and say, look, we can't have this. This kind of ruins our deal we have going here. How did they not, just go after him and
Well, I mean,
pitch a
they
fit?
they could say that it their god is the one true god, which would be sort of true still, because as we said, Thor isn't really a god. He's just an alien that was worshipped as a god.
But see,
So you could make the argument that that doesn't necessarily negate the existence of the Christian God. However, what I don't understand is why there aren't more converts to the Norse mythology. Why is there not a church dedicated to Thor being built in New York City? That's what
I know,
confuses me.
I know. Like I said, okay. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's all fine and dandy to believe in Jesus or whatever you want to believe. Okay, but when you can walk down the street and knock on a door and speak to a Norse god, I think that kind of says, "Hey, look, he's real. I can touch him." You know. But that goes along with my other problem here that I have. The day at the end of the movie, after the battle's all over, and they're gonna, quote unquote, banish Loki back to Asgard. People are just walking around normally, and like they're walking their dog and everything. I'm thinking about it, it's like 9/11. People were batshit crazy for a while after that. People didn't just you do the neighborhood thing like that. So like why is like we just had an alien invasion and all this shit's going on, and then looking at Daredevil, there's
Well,
all
I,
this
I
normal
think
activities going on. Where
I think it's a little different to compare 9/11 to the Shatari invasion for a couple of different reasons. Okay. Number one, obviously there were lots of heroes during 9/11. The first responders, the police, the firefighters, just random people going in to try and help people. Lots and lots of heroes. But there weren't any superheroes that that fought quote unquote superheroes. Even though any comic superhero would easily tell you that the real superheroes were the firemen and policemen and those people, which I completely support and agree with. And yeah, anyways, but it didn't feel like a victory. 9/11 did not feel like a victory. The Shatari invasion, if you were there or in the country or you know it felt like, okay, we got invaded and we beat their asses and beat them back. That's a little bit different. Now obviously people, I'm not sure that everyone's going to act like everything's normal, because hey, there are aliens that just invaded us and it's kind of weird, and now they're Norse gods, and now they're all kinds of strange things going on.
But you see,
And mutants, even
but
though we can't say mutants, but yeah, there
but
are mutants.
but you see, that's where my problem is. Now, uh, I'm not
But
trying to now. Hang on a second. I'm not trying to rip off anyone at Crack Magazine because there was an article about this 2 or 3 years ago where they said the same thing. But essentially, everyone that's in the Marvel universe has to have some kind of problem. Like they have to be okay. The word used there was psychopath. Now I don't know if they're all psychopaths. I don't know. But again, you have a living, breathing individual there who's worshipped as a god and clearly has godlike powers. You have a man who built a robot suit and built multiple robot suits, and he has free energy. Okay, you have another one who turns into a giant rage monster, you know, and then you have Captain America, who's essentially invulnerable to basically everything. And I just don't get it. I mean, what kind of people do you have to be to live in that world and realize, oh, all of a sudden, one religion has turned out to be true, and then there's also life elsewhere in the universe. What world do the average everyday people in the Marvel universe live in? And really, where did all the money come from to fix all these problems? Okay, now as was pointed out in the Cracked article, all these problems are all problems that the superheroes themselves have caused. Okay, like look at Tony Stark and look at all of his enemies. It's all people he pissed off. Okay, the Hulk has an enemy because he gave his blood to somebody else. Captain America has pissed off Bucky because he let Bucky die. All this shit that's going on is problems they've all caused, and
I don't know if that's true about that's not true about Captain America.
did okay.
He
If you remember,
didn't let Bucky die. He tried to save him.
but still, he let Bucky die. Okay, whatever. Oh, and then
That's
and
unfair.
and and
That's unfair.
and then the Red Skull shows up, and he's able to do all his crazy shit because nobody stopped Hitler. Nobody gave a shit. It's like, oh, look, Hitler's doing that. Okay, well, whatever. Like in the real world, we listened to that and we, kind of started beating his ass. But see, what I don't get is this opens up a whole new world of insanity here. Um, Hydra and Shield have the most advanced weapons. I mean, like you have Tony Stark, who built the arc reactor for free energy, and he can fly using it, and he can do the energy pulses and all that cool shit. But he has like 3D holographic display computers, and he can swipe it, and he can switch things. He can do whatever the fuck he wants to. I mean, like including embedding controls in his arm, so he can call his suit to him, and all this other stuff. And then the average everyday person has got an iPhone. Tony, son, come on now. You could make so much more money by just giving that ability away. Just say, here, take it, do cool things with my cool shit.
Well, that was one of the storylines of Iron Man, though, is that the military especially wanted his technology, and he refused to give it to them because he was afraid of what other people would do with his technology. So, I mean,
And then
it's
he went
not.
on to have a floor show where all of his machines exploded that same
Yes,
day. That same day, by the way.
yes. I
He,
mean,
t-
it's not completely unaddressed. I do agree the timeline moves very, very, very quickly. Like, incredibly quickly. Like, they probably could space that out some.
Also, I have been asked to point out that Tony Stark is actually no longer a weapons designer. He's currently a philanthropist, which ties into like I just said. Why is it that we haven't seen him actually give money away? Because it's not like he's ever going to run out.
I, I don't. That would make him a much more pitiable character. But maybe that's also why they don't want to do it, because he's sort of supposed to be a bit of an asshole.
He is an asshole. There's not supposed to be
I
sort of one. He is an
well,
asshole.
yeah, his character is a total asshole.
And also, it's being pointed out in the comments on the video right now. Uh, I'm just going to read it directly. Oh, hey, it's Lexi. Cool. Okay. It says, "Hi, Lexi." By the way, she says,
I like to.
She says, "This is also a universe where mutant humans, known as Homo superior, exist. Dismissing the gods as mutants posing is quite possible, and mutants have been around in this reality since the 1700s or so. Even earlier, if you take Apocalypse's Egyptian appearances into account. They have had decades to grow accustomed to it." Yeah, they have.
That's
That's actually true. Yeah, they have had
well,
decades to grow accustomed to it. But see, here's the thing. Here's the thing though. Mutants have been hiding, and nobody knew aliens existed elsewhere in the universe until, oh look, they're all above us in New York, and they're destroying our shit and wiping out our shawarma carts because God knows everyone has to have a shawarma cart.
I, the mutant things I can kind of accept that people would just kind of maybe shrug off there being mutants a little bit, but they're actually being aliens and a Norse god. That one does give me pause because it's like that would be a much bigger deal to me.
Well, see, here's the problem. Okay, because the X-Men all do tie into this, even though they're not ever mentioned. In the X-Men, mutants did not become public knowledge until the 1960s, okay? So whether they were there or not, sure, some people, knew about them or had ideas about them, but they actually became public knowledge in the 1960s, and that was used to create massive fear mongering and to have programs such that led to the Sentinels being created. So that all took place in like a 50-year span, okay? But the fact that there is a Norse god standing there, the fact there's aliens there, and people who are turning into giant green rage monsters and have robots, stuff like that, that's a little strange. I mean, I would think there would be someone reacting to it, because there's been two scenes where people have been called into, congressional hearings, and essentially they've said, you know what, fuck you, I'm gonna do whatever I want to. That was Tony Stark's response the day that he built a new atom or element rather, and then that was Black Widow's response in Winter Soldier. Called to hearings, and they're just like, you know what? I'm gonna do whatever I want to, and they're cheered for it. They're appreciated for it. Now, if you look at Man of Steel, because of what's been discussed is going to happen in Dawn of Justice, that he is called to a congressional hearing because people are angry. They're angry. They're upset about it, and they want to know why it is this superpowered individual is walking around and destroying shit and causing all kinds of problems, and they want to know exactly what his purpose there is. Basically, I'm saying that DC does a better job of reality here.
Well, I'm actually one of the weirder things to me about the DC thing is that and this is weird because it seems like DC's response is that they're completely overlooking the villains and the threat of villains. They seem far more afraid of the heroes than the villains pose. In Marvel, it's kind of the opposite. The people at least generally, they tend to be far more afraid of the villains than the heroes. Then there's a few exceptions to this, like X-Men's probably the best example because people are very afraid of all the mutants. But in the other hero cases, in the other cases of the other heroes, and this goes back to what Black Widow said was that just say fuck you, I'm gonna do whatever I want. She said that you guys need us. That they needed them. And that's
So, but okay,
never
okay,
something.
but see, here's my thing, and this goes back to what I said earlier. Everyone needs the Avengers and the X Men, everyone else, to solve problems that the Avengers and the X Men, everyone else actually created to begin with.
That's not necessarily true.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. It's very true.
How did the
Look,
Avengers cause the Chitauri invasion?
because a little item known as the Tesseract.
But they weren't the ones that stole that or brought it to Earth or
Actually,
gave it to Loki.
actually, actually, they
No,
did.
you can't say
Actually,
that
hang
Thor
on,
gave
hang
it
on,
to
hang on, hang on,
Loki.
hang on, hang on, hang on, hang on. Do you remember how during World War II, the Red Skull wanted to get the Tesseract,
Yeah,
and the Red Skull was part of Hydra, right?
yeah.
Well, by the time the Avengers movie takes place, Hydra has become Shield. Like it's all
It's part of
corrupt.
Shield. It's integrated into Shield.
Like no, like I mean they've infiltrated from the top to the bottom in Shield.
I
Okay,
know.
so essentially
I know.
Shield has become Hydra. So that means that Shield effectively stole the Tesseract and locked it away, and the experiment on it after it was recovered, from from the bottom of the ocean. Now, so the problem here is, why could they not locate the plane that Steve Rogers was in, but they could find the Tesseract?
That might possibly be because Tesseract was actually giving off an energy signal.
We found the Titanic.
Yeah, but it's harder to find a plane, especially in that part of the world.
Not really, because they knew where it went down at.
That's still difficult.
They
Also, we
knew
didn't find the Titanic till much later.
it was about 70 years, which is about how long that Steve Rogers was frozen in ice.
No, he wasn't frozen that long. He was frozen. If we use the MCU timeline, about 50 to 60.
Which is, like I said, that's about how long it took to find Titanic.
Well, then that's about the same amount of time.
Yeah, but see, they couldn't find him frozen in ice, but they could find the Tesseract. They couldn't find the plane, but they could find the Tesseract. All these weird
Yeah,
things.
but I mean, the Tesseract is giving off energy. It's easy to find. That's like having a beacon signal.
Okay, what I'm saying is, the plane was not that far away from it when it crashed. Do you remember? The Tesseract was not
Yeah.
dropped at some random spot. It went down with the plane. So how could they not scour around there and say, "Oh, look, there he is. Bring him up."
No, didn't the Tesseract drop while it was in flight?
Nope, it went down with the plane.
Hmm.
Doesn't
Even
make any
still,
damn
that
sense,
doesn't
does it?
explain how the Chitauri are responsible for the Avengers.
Because Loki, as we all know, wanted the Tesseract. In fact, he has the Tesseract. It's in his staff. It became the gem in his staff.
Yeah,
Okay, so what you see happening here is Loki contacts the Chitauri to get the Tesseract, which he was able to locate because Shield.
but he would have been able to get it. He would have came to the planet anyways.
It took him a very long time to find it, but how did he find it? Shield. They started experimenting with it. Or do you not remember the Thor movies?
But that's still not the Avengers that were responsible for it. That's Shield.
Well, the Avengers are part of Shield, so it
The
is a
Avengers were
problem.
created by
And
Shield, but they're a
and
separate
and
organization.
and here's the thing. Thor is part of the Avengers, so yes, this is an Avengers issue here. And if you don't remember, Hawkeye was involved in this, as was Black Widow. Okay, so there's three out of the lineup of Hawkeye, Black Widow, Thor, Captain America, Hulk and Iron Man, like
Just
six Avengers
because
involved
people
total.
were involved, just because people were involved with the Tesseract, doesn't mean they're the reason that the Shatari invaded.
They invaded because Loki contacted them and helped them invade because he was
Okay,
able to get the Tesseract from Shield. This is not a difficult thing to understand here.
I think you're stretching this very far.
I'm actually pointing out that this is a problem that the now see okay hang on a minute. Thinking about the Thor movie, Black Widow and Hawkeye are involved in this, but when you get to Captain America, the Winter Soldier, where the hell are they? Where were they? Now I know Black Widow was involved in part of that. That's fine, but where was Hawkeye? Did he just take a vacation that day?
He does have a family.
But see, where was he? And where was everybody else that should have been there? Because again, it's established that all these events are happening concurrently.
Well, let's see. Thor would probably be in his homeworld in Asgard. The Hulk probably is in hiding again or off somewhere doing whatever he does. Iron Man was probably doing his Stark Industries stuff. Mm, not sure where everyone else was. Well, where is that
But
other one?
but see,
What's the?
but see, that's the problem. That's the problem. The movies clearly establish that they had nothing going on at this point. Like the timeline intersects at certain movies, and you can see they had nothing going on. There was nothing going on at all. Where the fuck were they?
I just told you where they were.
It makes you wonder though, doesn't it?
I can buy that heroes are in different places. That's like saying during the Man of Steel, well, where was Batman?
Batman was in Gotham being Batman.
Yeah, exactly.
But you see, in Dawn of Justice, they actually address that specifically. Batman, gets involved in things outside of Gotham because of Superman.
I think that's just it's a bit of a stretch. You're just trying to find fault with Marvel Universe now.
No, no, no. I'm not trying to find fault. There is a fault there. Like I said, Batman starts getting more involved because of Superman. The Suicide Squad comes into existence because of Superman.
Well, wait. The Avengers Tower is located in New York, right? All the stuff that was happening in Winter Soldier is in DC.
What's your point?
I'm saying that they're in a different part of the country.
What's your damn point? Shield
Why
headquarters
would
is in
they be in
DC.
DC?
Shield headquarters is in DC. You have members who can fly, dude. In the Iron Man movie, Tony Stark is
Did
in India or some damn place. I don't remember where the hell he was at. Somewhere way the hell away, and his armor was in Tennessee. And his armor got to him in about a minute and a half. 300 some
yeah,
odd miles away from Tennessee. You're going to tell me that Iron Man could not go from Stark Tower in New York down to DC, which by actual plane is like an hour and a half?
something like that.
Clearly, Tony Stark can violate physics. Why is he not there? Thor can fly, and we all know they can contact him. So why did he not just show up?
Uh, I, uh, I don't think this. That would be like saying when DC makes all their individual hero movies, that all of the heroes should randomly show up to each of their problems.
Which we all know they're going to do because the Justice League movie is coming out before all the individual movies are finished.
Yeah, but I
DC is
mean that
DC
means
is
in each
doing
of
it
the movies
correct,
afterwards. That means in each of the movies afterwards, the entire Justice League should be in every movie.
but as I said, we're getting a lead-in movie for Superman. Okay, we've already had that. The next one, Batman comes into it, and so does Wonder Woman, and apparently Aquaman. Like the whole Justice League is essentially there, with except for Martian Manhunter and Flash and a couple other people. Okay, but they're all there. They're all there, and it's already and so we know the movies are going to come after that and whatever. But we know they're all there. So
Yeah,
so my thing, and see, here's the thing is they're going to have movies where they're together. So why is it that the MCU cannot do that? Why do you have to have these other people who should at least be aware of what's going on? Why can they not just show up and or say, hey, here's a little bit. I mean, come on. The headquarters of Shield was taken over by Shield itself. Hydra, whatever, taken over, and they had their giant murder boats in the air, and we're going to kill 3 million people. But Iron Man was just, I guess, too busy jacking off to vote for him. I don't know. Whatever the hell he was doing, why can he not get involved somehow? Now I know the reality is all these actors have their own. They have contracts and they're supposed to appear in this and this and this and this and only this and this and this and this. I get that. But in reality, they're a team. Damn it, they're a team. They could probably help one another at some point in time. Which, by the way, actually, this goes directly to the other quote that I wanted to read from this week.
okay.
So let me bring that up. Hang on. Okay, this is kind of a long one. And speaking of long ones, yes, I know we are well over an hour for our show, but this is a lot to talk about. Okay. This quote is from Jeremy Latcham talking about the Avengers and how that ties together. By the way, Infinity War is going to be the last movie for the current lineup, but that's part of this. Okay. He says, I think it definitely is an end to some version of the team that we've come to know as the Avengers. Who knows exactly what is going to happen yet in that film, but I think this version of that team, and I think we start to hint at it at the end of Age of Ultron, will be evolving. One of the things we love from the comics is that the roster is always changing, and new people are coming onto the team. And you can pick up an Avengers book 10 years later and you don't recognize people on the cover. But the idea and ideals and things that make the Avengers still exist. And I think that's part of what this culmination will be. We're seeing this version of the team doing this thing to save the universe or the galaxy, however you want to put it, and we'll kind of see where that goes. It's not the end of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I think that is the end of part of it for sure. We're still trying to sort out that point. So essentially, like I said, what he's saying is uh, that this is going to be Infinity War is going to be the last Avengers movie with uh, Captain America, Iron Man, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Thor, and the Hulk. This is going to be the last one we're going to have with them. So we're going to have
Yeah.
the third Captain America movie, and that be the final one, and then we're going to have this be the last Avengers movie, which is
Yeah.
good, because they've already brought in Ant Man.
Yeah. And
Oh, and
then you
Hawk and
have
everybody.
other characters coming in. You have Spider-Man, Black Panther, Doctor Strange. So they have a lot of new characters to pick from.
It's just kind of sad. But we'll see. It,
Well,
it, it, it's it's it's
I
it's
actually
it's
this is something I actually really like. I really like that there's going to be a beginning to the first Avengers. There's a middle to the first Avengers, and there's going to be an end to the first Avengers. That makes me happy from a storytelling perspective. That makes me really, really, really happy. Because, like I said with comics earlier, I think part of the problems that we have with comics right now is that we just keep them going forever. We've had Batman going for like 60 years now, and it's not a new iteration of Batman. It's even though they've tried new iterations of Batman sometimes, like with Batman Beyond, but basically it's still just Bruce Wayne the entire time. I can kind of understand that with Superman because he's sort of immortal, maybe, but um, I think these characters need a beginning, they need a middle, they need an end, and I think if we have that in our comics and our comic movies, we'll get much much better stories and a lot of new stories, which I think is important.
Also, before I respond to that, I want to offer a correction. I meant Falcon, not Hawk. I'm sorry about that. Thank you, Alexi, for pointing that out. It didn't click in my head. Okay, but okay. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I actually like the current Avengers lineup. I like it, and the reason I like it is because it's Avengers that everybody knows and loves. Now, I don't have a problem, with Ant Man, Falcon, uh, Doctor Strange, basically anybody you want to name being a part of it. I have absolutely no problem with that at all. I love the idea of it. But what I would like to see is the Avengers that we have right now still show up. At some point in time, they still show up. So that they're still there, and
Well,
and
they might. I've heard some of the actors saying, yeah, the actor that plays Captain America, I can't think of his name. He was saying,
Chris
I'm
Evans,
going to be done, huh?
Chris Evans.
Yeah, Chris Evans. In interviews, he said, I'm probably not going to be doing any movies after this, except for Marvel movies, which means that he might still be showing up in the future as Captain America because he likes playing Captain America. That's one of the things that he actually likes doing. Tony Stark has even said, my contract is coming up, but I might still make appearances in future Marvel movies. So even though all these guys' contracts are ending, that doesn't necessarily mean we'll never see them again.
Well, see, the thing about that I enjoy is the comics. Tony Stark is still Iron Man, and he's still developing Iron Man suits. He has I can't remember what it's called, but it's the one that's actually inside of him, and it's the nanobot. So he's still there. But Captain America actually retired, and this is I don't remember if this was when this is around the time he got shot or not. I don't remember, but he's actually retired, and he's taken on the name. I think it's the Captain now, and he's essentially like in command. And I think they could do that with Captain America, because there's clearly an opening here to take over now that Nick Fury has, gone wild man on Shield. But I think that would actually fit, put Captain America in a leadership position, and have Tony Stark, show up every now and then, but like him leading, like the R&D or whatever. But see, the problem I have with that is Captain America: Civil War. We both know that a lot of these people are on opposing sides, and that's actually part of the thing that scares me about Civil War. Because like the quote I just read, it
Well, this
we're
was
we're
one of the
seeing
really
the end of certain heroes. So are they going to be killed off?
um. There was only one person that I can remember that officially got killed in Civil War in the comics. But he's not in any of the movies or anything right now, so I don't know about that. It, I don't think they're going to kill anyone. I really don't. I don't think they're going to actually kill off anyone.
See,
And
in
one of
it,
the more weird things about the Civil War in the comics is they kind of gloss over it after it happens. The Avengers kind of split into two separate teams. There's the official Avengers that's, supported by the government and people. And then there's the underground Avengers, and they kind of act like the Civil War never happened, honestly. They just kind of for, almost forget about it. So that's one of the things that makes me. I'm excited for Civil War, but I'm really hoping that they do it a lot better than they did in the comics, because in the comics it was kind of a disaster.
but see, okay. Here's the thing. Um, really, what I don't get is why are they doing the Civil War line to begin? I mean, there are so many other options they could have gone with, but like you've mentioned before, they decided to pick one of the single most unpopular Marvel storylines of all time, and I really don't get why they would do that,
I,
particularly this soon. Now I know the MCU has been being built up since 2008, but when you think about it, there's been two Avengers movies so far, and you've introduced a couple new characters in individual movies and in the big show, the big Avenger movie itself. But for a film franchise, we're still pretty early on, and now they're gonna rip it apart already.
I'm also kind of confused by this, and the only thing I can think of is that um Josh Whedon, because he's kind of the one in charge of everything, more or less, has basically wrote this all out a long, long time ago and has had this plan in the works for all of this time. At first, I kind of thought it was to push the new comics, maybe to, since it was so unpopular, maybe to push the new comics. But they're kind of restarting the comics now with the now that they've redone the Secret Wars in Marvel, and basically all the comics are being restarted again. So I'm honestly really confused as to why they chose Civil War and what they're planning with Civil War. I mean, the only comfort I have is that Josh Whedon is directing this, and that Whedon usually does things that I generally like.
I don't know. I guess we'll find out when it comes out. But I think that's
It's
probably a really good
far away.
stopping point because we're at an hour and a half now, and as most of you guys know, we try to aim for an hour for the Friday show.
I
Sorry,
blame you.
it went way. Do what now? What?
I blame you.
I blame you. I blame you. So
I think everyone agrees that this is your fault.
no. You know what? Danny's not here, so we'll blame Danny.
Sure.
See, it works. Okay, so yeah, the long show is all Danny's fault. But yeah, like I said, that's probably a really good stopping point for this episode. Thank you for listening. If you listened all the way through, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you to Lexi for commenting. Um, Please remember to like this video. Leave comments after it's edited and posted, forever. Share the video. Like us on Facebook. Tell Nick how much you can't stand him. Tell Danny she needs to come back. We need her here. By the way, while you're on Facebook, check out Lexi's page, Tender Burnt Fuse. Give her a listen or a look and see what she has to say because she has some ideas coming out, so certainly, we certainly appreciate her commenting on this show and for being a guest on here a while back and probably a guest in the future. We'll find out. Next week
And for
we're
just
going to try
and for
for an
just being a good friend.
Yeah, for being a
Thank you
good
for
friend.
being our friend.
Yeah, being a good friend. Next week we're gonna try and aim for something that's also semi upbeat, and try and not talk about real life a little, as much as possible. Maybe I don't know. I'm trying to actually get a special guest for next week, because there was a show that we discussed in the past we were going to do, so we're going to try and aim, if we're doing that next week. Fingers crossed. But yeah, October's here. Halloween's coming. I'm excited. You're excited. We're all excited. Thank you for listening, everybody. Nick, do you want to say goodbye?
Goodbye. I'm leaving for Mars. See all of you Earthlings later.
Yeah. We'll talk to all of you. What, Monday? Yeah, Monday, right?
Sure.
All right. Have a safe weekend, everybody. Bye bye.
Bye.